Here we have some footage from our first squishy painting video from a year ago, where we were telling the story about Tyler's very first squishy that she got when she was 8. Sam was 3. She begged and begged, and we finally got her this cute little kitty. And then 3-year-old Sam was playing with it, and
she ripped its head off.
I was 3.
It's true.
I was sharing because I'm a good big sister.
It's true.
And she ripped my squishy's head off.
You were devastated, and I finally convinced you that if she was headless, she could be a zombie. So we didn't have any proper squishy decorating materials, but you colored her with Sharpies and created what I consider to be a squishy masterpiece. I mean, sure, she's streaky, but it's such a good concept and it's so adorable. The reason that we're bringing it up again is because
instead of blank squishies that we got for squishy makeovers, there was the exact same squishy that I had gotten however many years ago. So I decided to do a little glow up.
So now that you've got the proper materials, you're gonna repaint the zombie kitty. You gonna rip her head off too?
No.
Are you? Are you gonna rip her head off?
No.
You're not gonna rip her head off?
I mean, she might, but it's the one that did this in the first place.
It's true.
No.
I like how you're doing the zombie version and not the original version. You're not recreating what you got and loved and mourned. You're recreating what ended up being the superior version.
Yeah.
So, what are the proper materials to use when painting a squishy?
So we've got fabric paints so that they like stretch and squish.
Yeah, fabric paints are squishy and stretchy. What happens if you don't use fabric paint?
It'll crack all over and it just won't be good.
Yeah, it just peels off and cracks.
For the design, I went with green cat with brains spilling out.
Sure.
And I added some patches of lighter and darker spots.
Yeah.
And some little pink blood drips.
She's like a Frankenstein zombie kitty.
Yep. I think she turned out pretty cute.
It's a vast improvement on the materials, for sure, and the skills involved to create it. Yeah. Absolutely. I do kind of miss the head being able to come off.
Yeah. Then we would have to cut apart that squishy.
Yep.
And leave it apart.
Well, yeah, that would be tragic. We've still got the one that we can knock the head off of whenever we want to. So, a good time was had by all.
Yeah.
Even 3-year-old Samantha. Next up is me, and I've got this little T-Rex squishy, and then I got this miscellany, and I'm going to try to give my little T-Rex a grabber because everybody knows that T-Rexes have the teeny arms. So I'm making a grabber out of that unicorn ice cream cone. I don't know what it was thing and this donut. I got the other ice cream cone out in case I wanted to make his tail longer so that I was counterbalancing the gigantic grabber that I was sticking on the front of him so he wouldn't tip over. But he was actually pretty solid. He still was a little tippy, so I ended up only having to just elongate his toes a little bit eventually. So I trimmed off the rough spots and then sanded it. I'm used to sanding wood, and when you sand wood, you can sand off the high parts. You could clean that up. That's not how squishies work. Squishies, they just laugh at you. They don't go anywhere. You have to trim them off with scissors. You do have to sand the squishies before you paint them because if you don't, then the paint doesn't stick to the surface and it'll peel off. So you sand it until you've got little bitty holes. Samantha showed them off later on.
I learned something. Don't over sand it. Then you get little texturey spots.
Yeah, you've got to spend a lot of time covering the texture. But the little bitty holes, they give the paint something to hold on to. So I hot glued the pieces on, and then I filled in the gaps with puffy paint, and then I made him some little fingers out of the puffy paint so he could grab onto this grabber with his tiny arms. And now he's coming to get you with his giant grabber. I based him entirely blue. I love this color. It's so pretty. But I couldn't decide what color I wanted him to be. Ultimately, I knew I wanted to do some highlights and shadows because the sculpts for Squishies are very bulbous. They're very roundy. The sculpts don't have a whole lot of detail. They're just friendly round shapes. But I like to add a little bit of highlight and shadow that sort of makes the sculpt look a little more detailed than it is. So I started off with the blue, and then I was adding some yellow to try to create some highlights and give it some texture and dimension, but I wasn't sure I liked it. So then I painted half of it purple and pink to see if I liked that better. When I painted it purple and pink, I happened to do it right down the center line, and I liked it half and half. So for no reason other than I liked it, he's forever half and half now. I also don't have an explanation for the orange dots that go down the line. I just liked them. It just
Maybe
seems
he's like a plush dinosaur.
Yeah, it's got
And,
a
like-
kind of a plush vibe, like little stitches and stuff.
Yeah.
But he had the orange plates down his back, and so I think that I did the orange dots to kind of match it. And then I added this little wedge of another rejected squishy to his toes. I glued them on, and then I filled in the tops with some puffy paint and then painted them to match the rest of his feet, and then gave him some little claws down there. So here I am highlighting his nostrils. Gotta bring out those nostrils. It's an important detail. Want to make sure that they're popping. We were almost out of white fabric paint, so I ended up painting his teeth gray, basing him gray, and then using like the teeny bit that was left to paint the teeth white. Then I used the back of a paintbrush to add these little freckly polka dots all over him, and I used the opposite color. So it's green spots on the purple side and purple spots on the green side. Give him some purple eyes. Did a little bit of dry brushing on his grabber here. Started with gold, then I tried a lime green metallic, and I ended up adding some purple metallic, and then I added some orange stripes to the grabber. Give him some highlights in his eyes, and he's finished.
And now for mine. Sanding very aggressively. There's the little holes. You
Yeah,
want
there's
that,
the little holes.
but you don't want
Good job.
too much.
Good job actually showing them.
This is where it really got wrong.
Too aggressive with the sanding. She's
Back
flying.
Years. oh
Now
gosh.
you're punishing her nose? What did she do?
I'm making a barn owl. It's not pointy, and barn owls' noses are pointy. Actually, barn owls don't have the little ear things. I was like, what do I do? What do I do? I already painted it. And then I had a brilliant idea. Oh, I could make them cat ears. And that's what I did. Little cat ear headband.
It was a good idea. Why'd you choose a barn owl?
Because they're cute and cool and all that. So I based the face white and I based the body gray because that's the kind of barn owl I was going for. So here's me painting the little cat ear headband. It's purple.
I think that was a good choice.
This is where you really see the
Texture.
over sanding that I did.
Yep, and she's got a little bow on her head.
Mm-hmm. The feathers were a struggle.
Yeah.
Feathers are hard to paint on squishies.
Yeah.
At first, I just took the brush, dipped it in paint, and then I just did random stripy dot things. And then I realized that looked super bad, and then I painted over it and let it dry. And then I came back, I planned it out on my iPad, and I had an idea. And this is it. Right here.
Yep.
Now I'm painting the face.
I love her face. What is that?
I don't know.
Nice eyeliner, girl. Oh my gosh! I didn't know that was possible. Look at that.
my favorite squishies that we've painted. I think they all turned out really good.
Hey, I didn't have to struggle with the nose for an hour like last time.
The llama nose, the lemonade nose.